Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the St. Johns County Chamber of Commerce Monthly Radio Hour. My name is Ed Dwyer, founder of Dwyer Advisory, a proud member of the Chamber, and I'm your host the first Saturday of every month from 9 to 10 a.m. right here on WSOS 103.9. Joining me today from the Chamber is Scott Maynard, Senior Vice President, Economic Development and Public Policy. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's a beautiful day here in St. Augustine. And we have a couple of amazing guests today that are obviously Chamber members, and there's just great stories that I find being involved with the Chamber. And Scott, you and I always talk about how, why I'm involved with doing this show each month is the Chamber's rate made a real big difference in my life here in St. Johns County, living in St. Augustine, moving from the Midwest some years ago. We were just talking offline here about, doing some work with some folks in Ponte Vedra with North Avenue Capital. Once upon a time, at Joseph Rao was somebody that was so much involved. Well, I met him through the Chamber, hosting an event at Sawgrass back kind of the middle of COVID. Was involved with the Chamber, helping out with the SBDC, which it turns out that one of our guests, Viv Helwig here, is also involved with. So there's great stories. So for you listening today, you'll hear more about some companies here in town, some things that are going on that are really exciting. And also maybe you'll take away from this, a reason for why you would want to become more involved with the Chamber, or perhaps as a Chamber member, kind of validate why you're here. So with that, let me turn things over to Scott to introduce our first guest.
Yes, Ed. So we are excited to have Viv Helwig here today. Viv Helwig is the founder and president of Vested Metals. Viv was recently named the SBA Small Business Person of the Year. Viv was one of the first people that I met when I joined the Chamber here almost 4 years ago now. And we've developed a great friendship and a great relationship. And Viv, we're excited to have you here today.
Well, thanks so much for having me, and thanks for all you guys do to advocate on our behalf as small business.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell the listeners a little bit about Vested Metals, how it got started, and exactly what you guys do.
Sure. Well, Vested Metals, we're a specialty steel and metals distribution company, headquartered here, and then we've expanded throughout the country, but here in St. Augustine. And I came to St. Augustine in 2004 as a freshman at Flagler College. Graduated in 2008. Thought I was going to go into the real estate development business, and all of a sudden we had the greatest recession in the last 100 years. So that changed plans. Fortunately, had an opportunity to work at the college for about 14 months, and then got recruited into the specialty steel industry for a mill, working for them in business development. Moved throughout the country, moved back home with my family in 2014, and then after a year in South Florida, came here and started Vested Metals.
So tell us exactly what Vested Metals is and what products that you produce.
Sure. Well, I always like to start at the end downstream because that's more practical for folks who think steel and think bridges and infrastructure, which is a part of it. But when you think orthopedic medical device, anyone who's had a knee replacement, bone screw fracture, when you think we all fly on airplanes, rotating components, specialty steels, corrosion-resistant steels and titaniums and metals in those critical application areas, we help get those products to the manufacturers. We do some first-stage manufacturing, but that's primarily what we do.
Yeah, and that is so important. And I know one of the areas that you also focus on is exporting. Exporting is really scary for a lot of people, especially a lot of small businesses, because they don't understand the value of exporting and the value of markets outside of the U.S. So I know, talk a little bit about that and how you got originally involved in exporting.
I want to say 2019 is when we really started to lean in. I think the number is it's less than 10%, like 7% maybe of U.S. small businesses export. So it's a pretty small number, but the market opportunity is great. And so we've been members of the Chamber all along, and that's been a great opportunity to meet other resource providers like the SBDC at UNF. We worked with them to put an export marketing plan together, and through that we were able to then through the U.S. Commercial Service go on an export mission and really start to engage these markets overseas.
Yep. And you mentioned the Commercial Service. Jorge Arce
That's right.
is a great individual to know, and for everyone listening out there, that is a free resource that you can use to explore options and opportunities for exporting your product across the world.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk a little bit about the recent award that you received, the Small Business Person of the Year. That's a great honor. I know that comes on the heels also of a couple of years ago, you were the Small Business Exporter of the Year for the state of Florida.
Yeah, we have been very fortunate to assemble an incredible team that has a rows in the same direction, and we've got a purpose that we're aiming for. And so, the Exporter Award, this award, some of the awards, I guess they put my name on there, but there's no such thing as a self-made man or woman. So it's really been encouraging to see how we can share that as a group, as a team. But it's a great honor, and I think part of it is they look at growth over a number of years. They look at investment. They look at expansion. But it's resiliency, really. And when you think about like the pandemic and what every small business had to go through there.
Yeah, that's right. And being a career banker, almost 40 years as a banker, I'm always fascinated, with stories like yours, Viv, where there are so many businesses that don't make it. Like we're involved with Pitch Factory, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that more today. But some 8% of companies fail that start from out of the ground. And yet, in your case, you've got a story to tell where, how many employees do you have at this point?
About 27 now.
27 employees right here in St. Johns County. Also, I know you have a facility in Indiana now.
That's right.
So, but that, from a ground up, that's a great story, and one that we celebrate at the Chamber. They talk about the advocating, providing resources, and the network. And that's why, I think it's such a great story to hear from you. So where do you see Vested Metal, say, 5 years from now?
Great question. Thought about that a lot. We do have a 5-year plan. I mean, I think we've made a lot of investments, and so now we want to really maximize those investments and continue to have our name in the market expanded. But I think multi-location is key. So we could see possibly more of that depending on what the opportunities are in the market. And just continuing to expand our capabilities, some more downstream capabilities in the products that we offer, and continue to lean into that total addressable market. So a lot of the expansion we've done, we probably won't do it at the breakneck speed we've done, but we've got some strategic opportunities. I think right now we have a great inventory position that a lot of companies have, based on some of the dynamics coming out of the pandemic. So we're in a good position to support competitively with a lot of key inventory grades our customer base and markets right now.
Maybe a quick comment about how this tariff situation is impacting your business these days.
It's the first I'm hearing about these tariffs. Tariffs?
Hope so.
It's an impact. I will say you really have to segment it. You think of consumer and China. But for us, really, the EU is the primary area that we, from a purchasing standpoint, usage standpoint, that we partner with some mills. And I'll just say that, the Section 232 tariffs that used to be back page, front page, steel and aluminum, those have been in place since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
What's happened is the exclusions and the quotas have been removed. So it is going to take some navigating, and right now there is some uncertainty. But we're utilizing our inventory base to navigate that until we know more.
And I think that's going to be the name of the game, right? Just kind of navigating through all of these changes and watching and trying to predict the future, but also make decisions that are prudent for you and your business going forward.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, let's take a quick break. We're going to come back with Viv Helwig with Vested Metals and talk a little bit more about what's so fascinating about a business owner and entrepreneur is there's a lot of other things you do in life besides Vested Metals. We'll hear more about that